why should they care about fixing it? Because we should hold them liable. Because we should identify and fix root causes, because people should be proud of what they produce and have minimum standards, to not go, well, I can do it cheaper for you by leaving out the security, but go, this isn't done until these components are in it. You can save money by taking safety belts out of cars, but you wouldn't sell a car like that because of regulation and because of pride and wanting your brand to be protected. So how do we, I think the question isn't why should they care, but how do we get them to be recognised for doing it well and punished for doing it badly? Because back to your question about incentives, that will then drive behaviour, I think, that leads to improvement.
I think that's actually an excellent point. So I've done a lot of contributions on open source projects, and the relentless review is quite honestly unbelievable. I found myself submitting code that I thought was good, didn't get accepted at all, thousands of comments. And that's really good. So over time, it allowed me and hopefully my team back at Base to write code that they could really be proud of, that they are not afraid to show to others. And it comes simple, trivial things like comments in your code. How many of you write comments in your code? Okay, so all of you have put your hands up, great. It's that passion, it's that quality of engineering that you expect from your people, so that they can show it to someone else and say, I've done this is me. Let's show it to others and see what they think about it. I think if we encourage that, we've gone a long way in our organizations in making software that's good. And security is definitely part of good software.
Yeah, so we have some hard data that shows that about a third of our developers, if we show them what's wrong with their code, they'll go, okay, thanks for showing me. Try not to embarrass me, and I'll go away and I'll fix it. And a third of them will just go away and fix it. The other 2/3 usually have a challenge like the gentleman in the t-shirt was referring to. They have a deadline, they have something that has to be out at a certain time. But again, if you can go have the conversation with them, and you can have a conversation about what do we prioritize, when do we do this, how important is this relative to everything else, then people will be reasonable and they'll respond. So I do think the average developer views themselves as having a role in the whole security setup.
Thanks. We have a question actually at the front there. Gentleman in the jacket.
You're really enjoying that, aren't you?
Going back to Jan's earlier point about the security coming from effectively the basic tenets of good quality software. I mean, that solves most of your problems in terms of buffer overflows, for example. That is if it's a good quality software, those vulnerabilities just shouldn't be there. But I think blaming the developers as a whole is perhaps not the way forward. I think often you end up with very poor requirements for security. And I don't think any engineer, no bank would ever say to their coders, could you produce a piece of banking software without any further elaboration? Yet they are often very comfortable saying things like, could you make it secure? Which is equally as vague. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that really as a fundamental.
Sure.
I reject code that I cannot verify that is right. So if there is something like it should be secure, it should be usable, it should look pretty, what do I do with that? So whatever process you have in your company, make it apparent, make that requirement really stand out. Like a sore point that says, this as it stands cannot be done. I need more information. I will do it. I think I know what you mean. So I'll help you along the way.
But would you do that with any other requirement that was in the code? So for example,
Yes.
if it was that case of write me an online banking interface, you'd push back on that in the same way, wouldn't you?
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm going to challenge the point. Reason I'm going to challenge it is if I look at 80% of the vulnerabilities, and Coverity will have stats like this. It's a standard Java application. 80% of your issues are going to be SQL injection and cross-site scripting. Do I need to write that as a requirement? Please do not put the SQL injection attack in your code. I think blaming that on a requirement is wrong. There's definitely a need to improve requirements, and there's certain issues that requirements would solve. But there's so much basic stuff.
So what about industry standards which are out there already, which say, which have checkboxes saying, you shall not have the OWASP top 10 issues or the SANS top 25. I mean, are those, to a software developer, are those meaningful requirements, or do they need to be distilled down further to say, this is what not to do? And why?
I'll probably chip in there. I do a lot of work with PCI DSS, for example. In PCI DSS, there's a whole section about software security that pretty much mirrors the OWASP top 10, but it's not the developer that signs off the audit. It's usually someone in the business. And I suppose the other issue is it's a self-certifying questionnaire on some points. But your businesses are, they're aware of this information. They can see, make sure you've not got SQL injection in the code. It's in the standard PCI DSS, but they just tick it off as yes, we've done that, and move on, just so they can do business. I'm not sure if compliance helps or makes things worse.